acknowledge that we were founded on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, the Attawandaronk, the Mississauga and Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and now live on land that is home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We have many representatives working across this land now known as Ontario, and we acknowledge that there are 46 treaties and other agreements that cover the territory. We are grateful to be able to work and live on this land, and thankful to the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people who have cared for these territories since time immemorial, and who continue to contribute to the strength of Ontario and to all communities across the province. To continue to center reconciliation, we encourage our team, partners, students, and teachers to take time to learn about the lands they are currently on. Visit native-land.ca for more information.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's virtual food and farm field trip to the Ottawa Valley Farm Show and the Championship Seed, Feed, and Forage Show. Today, with the help of Robert and Stephanie Campbell, we'll give you a behind-the-scenes look at the show and talk about all things seed, feed, and forage. Robert and Stephanie have recorded a portion of their tour so that it's not as loud walking through the show today. But Robert will be joining us live in a few moments to answer any of your burning questions. So let's get started with today's tour.
Good morning. My name is Robert Campbell. This is my daughter Stephanie, and we have an egg and crop farm near the town of Perth. We're 6th and 7th generation, and Stephanie's kids are the 8th generation on our farm. And our involvement here with the Ottawa Valley Seed Growers and the Farm Show, I'm the vice chairman of the Seed Show Committee and help with a good group of committee of people to help put it all together. And Stephanie is actually a judge on Judging Day, bring all the crops here. The crops come from 11 or 12 different counties, including parts of Quebec as well. So it's a very large competition. Each county has a competition, and the first and second place in each class comes to this show. So it's very competitive, and then the winners come to this show and they get displayed as you see behind us. There's trophies and whatnot. We had this morning a large our presentation of all the awards and a good crowd out to see that. So it's a very good group of people that get together to get involved in this. And Steph will explain in a few minutes a few things of what we're looking for in that.
So what kind of things are entered into this show?
So it ranges from kind of anything you can find on a farm. There's potatoes, there's forage samples, so hay, haylage, straw, as well as seeds ranging from corn, soybeans, wheat, to small seeds and forage seeds like alfalfa and rye.
Okay, so what would something like corn be used for?
So corn has a lot of different uses. The main corn that we're showing at this show is for feed purposes.
And what would some of those forage crops be used for?
Again, forage is mainly for feed for cattle or animals, and also used as bedding, so to make their beds nice and soft.
And what are some of the specialty crops that you have here today?
So we have a few things, like we have our sheaths that farmers go to the work of making a really beautiful sheath, and also potatoes that are more for human consumption.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the competition and how it came to be and who is entering?
Okay, so this is the 98th edition of Valley Seed Growers Seed Show, Seed and Forage Show. It's the entire part of all the counties in Eastern Ontario get together. They have their own local show, as well as Western Quebec, a local show, and the winner and the second place winner from each class is then forwarded to our show, which we have last Saturday before this show starts, and then the entire thing is judged. So if you want to get involved in this, if you're in Eastern Ontario, you can get involved through your local soil and crop association. If you're in other parts of Ontario, you're quite most fairs have seed shows and forage shows that you can get involved in, and it's a very enjoyable thing. There's a lot of competition, lifelong things. Actually, my father was quite involved, and we have trophies from the 1950s. So we've been at it a long time, and it just seems to be a generational thing. But we also have lots of new entries this year, new people getting involved, and it's just a interesting thing. We get together and look at the different seeds and the different crops. So it's a very enjoyable thing and a great group to be part of.
So what do people need to do during the year to prepare for this?
Okay, well actually you're thinking about it as soon as this show is over. As the crop goes through the summer, you'll be cutting hay or whatnot, and you'll know where your best hay maybe is. And then when you're harvesting the grains, you'll take out samples that you'll keep. And then when winter time comes, you'll sit down and spend some long evenings going through seeds many times with your family. It's kind of a family event. And those people that make sheaves, as we'll see in a few minutes, it's a very time-consuming thing as well. So it's a long thing. So it's not just something you enter just willy-nilly. It's something you have to spend some time on and be involved in.
And how many different classes of entries?
I think there's in the 40s, about 40 classes of different things. And then the 4-H, also we had 107 entries of 4-H this year. And they have much the same crop classes, but then they also have classes from their 4-H clubs, posters and whatnot. So it's a big event too for the 4-Hers to get awards.
All right, so this is another class of forages. So right here we have dry hay, and dry hay is fed to cattle, like dairy cattle and beef cattle. And hay is cut multiple times through the year, so there's actually separated into different classes of first cut, second cut, third cut, because they will all have different qualities based on the time of year that they were cut. And we also have behind me a class of straw. I actually helped judge this. We judge in pairs of 2, so my partner and I judge the straw. And straw is a very different way that you're judging versus hay, because you're not looking at the maturity the same way, like it's all cut at the same time. Straw is basically the stalk left behind after you harvest wheat or barley or a small grain. And so we have 2 classes. We have chopped straw, which is more used as feed, and then we have straw that's left long, like a flake from a bale, which you would use more as bedding for animals like cattle in dairy barns or beef barns.
Okay, so we're going to bring Robert in to answer some of your questions. We've got Farm and Food Care Ontario team member Jessica on site behind the camera to help Robert with some of these questions. Good morning, Robert. We've got a few questions coming in already, so we're going to kick it off with, how did you first get involved with the show?
Well, good morning. Robert here from Ottawa Valley Seed Growers, Ottawa Valley Farm Show. When did I get first involved with the show? Well, actually, it's sort of a family thing. My father showed with the 60s and whatnot, so I helped clean seed when I was a very young boy. And as things went along, I got involved as I grew in the family, and now my family's helping clean seed and whatnot, prepare for the show. So we've been very involved for many years. Personally, I just joined the board here about 6 years ago, and I really enjoyed working with all the different counties in Eastern Ontario, and it's been a great experience.
Are there different parts of Ontario that are better for growing different crops?
Yes, there is. A lot of it depends on the climate in Northern Ontario or farther north. There's the heat units, which are used to determine what maturity you can handle in your area, and that determines what crops you can grow. Forages are more common in Northern Ontario. You get colored beans and different things. But they've changed breeds of seeds now that you can grow pretty much any seed in any part. They're just a different heat unit and whatnot. But no, there is variable, but it's getting that you can grow pretty near anything.
Well, with the new changes in different climates around Ontario, have you seen any new classes that have joined the show over the years?
Have you seen any new classes added to the seed show?
Oh yes, the beans have come in, peas, a few things that farmers have tried differently, feed their cattle and whatnot. So yes, two different varieties. It's not a big part of the show. The regular ones like soybeans and corn are still your basic, bigger part of the show, but are starting to grow because farmers are always looking to try something exciting to see something.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about how to get involved in the show through your local Soil and Crop Improvement Association or 4-H clubs. Is there a way for people not in the East to get involved in a show like this?
Yeah, I'm not sure if the other farm show in London has shows, but certainly your fairs have crop classes, and your soil and crops all across Ontario, I'm sure, have something that you can get involved. Every county has a soil and crop, and that's where farmers get together and discuss different things, new varieties and new things. So there's always areas that you can get involved in getting agriculture and things like that.
Okay, great. We're going to jump into the next part of the tour and play a video of Robert and Stephanie explaining some of the different categories in the forage division.
Right now we're in the forage division. We have corn silage, which is all made of corn, as you can see in below. And up top are haylage, which is chopped off hay. There's two classes, the first cut class and a second cut class. And actually there's even forage soybeans here as well, which is sort of a specialty thing. As you see, Corn, actually, there's processed and unprocessed. And processed means that the harvester that cuts the corn actually has a roller mill that breaks the kernels into smaller pieces. And so there's two classes, and farmers use both these types of things to feed their cattle. So this is very rich feed, and it's a very large part of the diet of cattle. Too fast. Too fast.
Sorry.
Okay, we are back and we've got Robert in for another round of questions. So we've got one coming in.
What is your favorite class to judge?
Oh, I like corn cobs. It's kind of like when you have the Olympics, the 100-meter race is the main attraction. The winning class of corn cobs is the one that everybody goes after here. It's sort of the prize one. So that's the class I like, and I like competing in it every year and judging it and seeing what's in that class. That's my favorite.
Okay, so Robert, when people think feed, seed, foliage, all of those, most people think about corn and hay and soybeans, but there's a lot of other crops at the show. What are some of the more specialty crops that you guys get to judge?
So when people think of seed, feed, and forage, they think of corn, beans, and soybeans. What other specialty crops are part of the show?
Okay. Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. You can hear the buzz around here, so it's busy. Oh, I mean, we even have potatoes here, and we have the white beans and the specialty beans, forage crops. There's a lot of different varieties. I can't think of any right now. A lot of organic is starting to show up. That's new in the last few years. So, anything you can think of is probably here to be judged.
And in the video we saw, you were looking at haylage. What's the difference between first cut and second cut?
Well, first cut haylage. First cut is usually taken off late May, early June, and it's usually coarser that time of year. And then the second and third and fourth cuts, in many farms they take 4 cuts. It's more lush and there's a lot more protein and whatnot. So they're different to judge because the first cut, again, as I mentioned, it's more coarse, more mature. The heads of Timothy might be more mature. Once you get into the second cut, it's more lush and it can't really be compared. So that's why they have to bring in the classes. Quite often, if you do a third or a fourth cut, you can also show it as the second cut or whatnot.
And would farmers only be feeding hay, or would there be some other additives in there?
Oh no, a lot of farmers now mix everything together. They have the dairy farmers mix everything. They actually put some straw in their feed because it's too rich what we grow now. So they put straw in to make fiber and whatnot. So no, there's a lot of different things added in. Soybean meal for protein and different things depending what you're feeding. I have a flock of hens, so we usually mostly use corn and sometimes wheat. And so it depends on what you're feeding and what you're after.
And then is fourth cut better than first cut?
The second cut better than first cut?
Is fourth cut better
It's
than
fourth.
first cut?
Yes, it'll be very rich, but you don't get near as much of it. The volume of it is maybe a quarter or even less. It's just not as much of it. So it's a very rich crop, and I'd say not many. The upper farm, the farmers that are after a lot of feed for the dairy cattle are the only ones that will do fourth cut.
And then how long are seeds good for before they're planted?
Oh, seeds. We were talking about that yesterday. Seeds, some Timothy seeds and whatnot, they're good for years and years and years. So some lose their amount that will germinate, but no, seeds last for a very long time if they're kept clean, dry, and free from insects.
Okay. And you mentioned that the show takes crops from Ontario, but also Quebec.
Yes,
What would the most common crops be in Ontario versus Quebec?
Oh, they're the very same. Yeah, because our heat units are about the same, so wouldn't be very much difference between the two.
Okay. And what crop gets the most entries into the show?
It'd be the corns and the soybeans. Yeah, we'll get 16, 18 entries that we have to judge, which is very difficult on the judges. Yeah, the hays also will have that many from all the counties. Those are the bigger classes.
And do you get a lot of new entries, or is it a lot of the same people trying to outdo themselves?
Over the years, it's generational. Like I said, my dad did it and I did it. So it's always very exciting to see new entries. And we had a new entry in our county. We had 2 new exhibitors that had never showed before. So we're excited to see that. And we've had some new exhibitors here that have actually done quite well. So we know they'll be showing again. But it is difficult. You might do really well one year. And then if you don't make it from your county, you're not here next year. That's what keeps everybody coming back and trying to make a big show.
Okay, so we've got a bit of time left. We've got one more video to play of Stephanie, who's going to let us know what she looks for when judging a seed sample.
All right, so earlier we talked about a sheath and how it is one of the most time-consuming things that you could enter in a seed show. So this is what it looks like here. You take the small grains and you have to actually pick all of these, cut them all the stalks and peel off all the leaves, get them shaped into this so your heads form a nice looking sheath, and then get the ribbons on it. So it's a very time-consuming thing, and the farmers will have to actually start getting this ready when they're harvesting the crops in July or August. And so they're already thinking about the seed fair way back in the summertime before we even get anywhere near this March show. And when we're looking at a winning sample, as we're judging it, there's a lot to look at in a seed sample. One of the things we're looking at is freedom from impurities and freedom from disease or insect damage. So that means you want to make sure that your cob doesn't have any holes. You don't want any insect biting in there or any disease that you could see. And you want to make sure also that you have a good maturity, especially when you're looking at corn cobs. Maturity is very important. You want to see those dents in all of the cobs. And then we're also looking at uniformity. And that's probably the part that the farmer, when they're choosing the sample for the show, is looking at the most, is they want to make sure all those cobs are the same size, that they're looking nice, that they don't have any dirt on them. And they put a lot of work into that each year to make sure that those cobs are good, or whatever seed sample they're showing. So this is a very good sample. This is our championship corn sample for this year.
Okay, we are back with our last set of questions before we've got to wrap up and let Robert get back to the show. So we want to know what happens to the submissions after the show is done.
What happens to the crops that are entered? They go back. They don't get back to the farmer. It's too hard to do that. So they're all put together and taken to the farm, and they're all used. Nothing's thrown out. The seeds used again. So nothing is wasted. And it's a big job when we go to clean up to keep everything organized and whatnot. Not quite as big as when we set up, but we get it done pretty quick. But no, everything's used for sure.
So you mentioned that you've been competing with your family for a number of years. What's your favorite class to enter?
Again, those cobs are my favorite. But we had dairy cattle for many years. We just got rid of the dairy cattle a few years ago. So I was always able to show hay, and I enjoyed showing alfalfa. I enjoyed growing alfalfa, but now that we're just in the egg business, on to wheat and beans and corn, so I don't get to show hay anymore. But when we have a show, I always go over and stick my nose in it and look at the entries that are there just to see how they're doing. But right now it's the corn and beans that we're focusing on.
When you're looking for those perfect cobs, how long would it take you?
All summer long, because as you're going around the fields in summer and doing different things, you see a spot that the cobs just look a little bit bigger. When it comes to the fall, when they're mature, before we combine, I'll go out and do a scout of many fields and pick a few cobs and then take them back to the shop and decide which ones I want to concentrate on. And when I pick the ones I want, then you go out again and pick enough for the show, quite a few extras, so you can go through them and pick them. So it's not just done quickly, it's and that's in every class. That people are looking for where they think the best crops are, or when they're taking hay off, or pay attention to where that hay that they can get back at it. So it's a season long, when you're involved in showing in crops, so that's a season long event.
So it sounds like it's
look over the fence of the neighbor.
It sounds like it's quite a labor of love entering. A lot of time, a lot of hard work. So with that, what's the hardest class to judge?
What's the hardest class to judge?
Oh, I don't know.
I'll be out of that.
The hays are difficult. They're all, like if you have 10 samples of corn or 20 samples of corn, and they're all really good. So every class is difficult. Depends on what you judge. If you're a judge and expert in that, you can handle it. I'm not a judge. I have a pretty good idea of things, so I'd have trouble judging any of them. My daughter, as she was talking yesterday, she seems to grab right onto that and handle that very well. So I don't know if you'd say any of them are any harder to judge. If you're knowledgeable about it, they're all just a regular class.
And how long does it take the team to judge all of these entries?
How long does it take the
Actually,
team?
we have 7 teams, 7 pairs of judges. So we get together on a Saturday in a local community. We bring all the samples from all the soil and crops in the area. And we can actually judge that with the 7 teams in about 3 hours. So it's quite an event. It's a small sort of crops and things going around. And then we also have to store the crops so they can come to this show. But no, about 3 to 4 hours we can do the whole show and be ready to come here.
Okay, I've got one more question. How can people get involved with the Ottawa Valley Seed Growers or the show?
Well, we have 24 directors, and as the director of the Ottawa Valley Seed Show, everybody has to go through the seed committee, which is what this is, and then some stay on it or go to other committees. But we also, because it's such a big job, we also take outside committees that aren't directors. So we have quite a few people that help just for the seed growers and for the seed fairs and whatnot. So that's what we have quite a number of this. So we'll probably have 30 to 40 members on setting up and working. So it's a great group. You never have to get help.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Robert, for your time. I am going to maybe ask Jessica to just do a quick panorama of the show so people can see some of the awards, some of the winning crops, and then we'll sign off.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so thank you for everyone who tuned in to today's tour, and thank you to Robert and Stephanie for hosting. We'd ask that if anyone who tuned in, if you could fill out a short survey using the link posted in the comments. If you fill out that survey, you will be entered to win an Ontario Fair Pass, which gives you and a guest access to almost any agricultural fair in Ontario, including some that would host their own seed shows. So thank you, and we will see you next time.